Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Animation Dojo. I'm your instructor, Pedro. Uh, I had a little incident today, some of my energy is going to be a little bit low today, but we're continuing with where we left the last class, which is doing a pose sheet, and let's get right to it. So here, what I did, we finished the last class doing the rough drawings for the which was this you see over here. And from there, I mean, go to normal. We cleaned it up a little bit, doing shadows and everything. And then I started doing the colors to make it closer to the art style I want to achieve. I'll set the layer blending mode to soft light. That way, the black lines will turn only into a darker shade of the color underneath, like this. So you see, uh, it caters better for animation, at least in the style I want to do it. So uh, in OpenTools, we're going to be working. We don't have this access because I mean the fields work differently. So what we do there is uh, do paint buckets, and our lines are going to be a different color. So it's a matter of organizing your paint buckets properly and get all the colors you need. Like you'll see it once we are in OpenToons. The good thing about that workflow is that you can change the color of your lines automatically in all your drawings by simply changing the color of the bucket. So it's a nice tool to have. Just clean this up a bit. Take our time. It's a breezy afternoon today in Panama, so you might hear leaves and stuff. And let's rub the color for the crown. Go fast. I mean, you have to be careful. Keep everything organized. It's just a matter of painting over what you need to paint. Uh, Deselect, select again, and then you can keep like looser flowy lines. I'm using a tool called hey, what's up, Glenn? I'm using a tool called the lasso fill, which is in what's the software I'm using? Clip Studio Paint. Sorry, had a little bit of a brain fart there. Uh, and this allows you to avoid making a selection and then paint bucket and just make it's like a fill tool that allows you to that works like a bucket. So okay. There we go. Now let's go with the teeth here. And try to be as loose as possible because your wrist is gonna thank you. I just try to keep it loose. If you need to clean it up later, then just go ahead and clean it up later. But don't tense up as you're working. Because if you do, then that's gonna translate into pain later. Okay, so here we need a little bit of an outline. Okay. So you see it can be like a little bit dirty or like not that close to the line quality you want, but you can always come in and clean it up, and then you can like just concentrate on a little piece instead of trying to make it like all perfect in one go. It's just, you know, kinder on your wrists and your anatomy. We have to look at ourselves. Here, okay, so let's get the support for the eye. Okay. So, okay, that's what we got so far. I mean, we're looking for the range of the limits of the model per se. So that's why like these poses are all like kind of exaggerated. Might not go with the personality of the character because that's not the the purpose of this of a pose. It is more akin to tasting the limits, like how far can you take him. All right, so okay. Hmm. Oops. There we go. Cover layer. Here. Something. look for this line here, this line here, this line here, and we're done. Okay, so once you get your model sheet, your post sheet, and I already have the cleaned out model sheet here. So this is what we're going to be working with. So we got a pretty good idea of how our character looks like from 3/4 front profile and 3/4 back. I don't feel the need to do like a 3/4 a full back pose because you get all the information on this one on this pose here. But sometimes like a director might say like, hey, I want the back shot too, so you're at the mercy of who's directing the the piece. So once we have all that, we're gonna start doing our storyboards. And the thing with storyboards, the first thing that needs to come to mind, the first thing you need to think about is what format the production is using. And that's when we start talking about aspect ratios, which is this over here. So normally, like nobody does animation in DSLR, which is like camera, like digital camera format. You got like the old standard definition TV at 4:3. Those were like your C like square square screens, like the TVs of old. Then you have the 16:9, which is HGTV. Cinema film, which is 1.8, or CinemaScope 235, and vertical if you're doing the production is for like mobile phones. It's like an inverted 16:9, so 9:16. We're gonna be working in HD, which is 16:9. I've already have my company templates, which is Creative Monkey Farm. Normally, when you see a storyboard page, and you can make this, it's actually in Spanish. I have to say like the project, if it has chapters, the page number, if it like the logo of the company, that doesn't really matter. The scene and the sequence. So scene is basically uh, a choice of camera shot, and what goes for the duration of that camera shot, that's a scene. If there's a camera move or whatever, it's still a scene. A sequence, it's a grouping of scenes. So you'll always have scene and sequence. In our case, our project involves two scenes. So the name of the project is called Bad News. Let's come here real quick. Let's use a blue pencil. So let's make it bigger. Even bigger. Let's do it 20. Bad News. Chapter, no chapter. Scene, page 1. It would be scene 1, sequence 1. So, and no other annotations you need to take into consideration is how are you going to cut between scenes. And there's a convention, like most of you might know them by now, which is like, for example, fade in, fade out. You got basically you write cut if it's a simple cut, and this means cross dissolve. There are other type of transitions that you might need, like like gradient dissolve and whatnot, which you'll be familiar with if you work with softwares like Premiere or DaVinci or Final Cut. But with these four, it's basically the normal convention of how do you go about marking your how do you cut between scenes. So knowing that, let's say it's scene one, and the annotation will be made right next to the scene. So you're doing a fade in, okay? And next to the action, you see the type of shot you want. At this junction, it's good to get yourself a book on film directing. I recommend Film Directing Shot by Shot. It's a blue book, not that heavy, but it's full of information. I'll give you like everything you need regarding like how to do storyboards, even though it's not a storyboard book. I have a couple of storyboard books here, but I mean, we'll look to them more in depth when we do like a specific storyboard class. Right now, like this is just like what we need. So we're fading in, so it's coming from black, and our character is gonna be a close up, like mid chest up. Let's bring this line down a bit. So if there's a lot happening in your scene, you might need more than one drawing to describe one scene. So feel free to just use as many drawings as you need. And at this point, you don't need to be that precious with your drawing. You just need to keep your character at least like on model, but it doesn't need to be like completely on model. It's just a matter of where do you want the camera? Is the camera is like tilting up, tilting down, like that kind of stuff, like the perspective of the shot. So he's giving it, or back to the screen. Get to see this. So we can use the flare with the cape, like taking advantage of that element. So in a shot like this, in a close-up, the background is not that important, but since we're going to a long shot, our spatial reality should come into play. So I'll show you what we'll do on the next, once we cut to the next scene. So, okay, we got him turning. You can go with a just to like really let people know he's turning. So you see, we're defining what's happening in the scene. He's on his back, he turns. Now we're still in scene one. So what notation do we make to let the animators know we're still in scene one? You simply write where it says scene or escena, as I had in Spanish here, as in continue. That's all you need to do. Okay. So regarding the background, like we need to know our spatial reality. So King Cryptid, it's a creature of the forest. Like he's always like, if you see the illustrations, like let me look for the references I've got. Uh, just by watching, looking at the covers, it's like very forest oriented uh, story, nature oriented. So I was looking for a forested areas reference. Let's not save this. And I got this because I want him to punch a rock in the long shot as he's reacting to the bad news. So I'm gonna loosely use this as a background. So if we go to the model sheet, how much of that, maybe we'll see like a couple of trees here and there, right? So let's redefine more of this with a darker pencil. And at this point, like we don't need to make the background itself, but we can insinuate a little bit of the forest here and there. So the layout department knows like, okay, this is the kind of layout we want. And if it was a shot that needed perspective, like you should at least try to do a little perspective shot here, so they can have like a very clear idea of what you're trying to communicate. So again, we're not adjusting the tilt here. So Uh, we're not making a camera move or anything. So if you want to repeat the background or just insinuate it a bit, that's fine. So you don't need to like be too precious about it. Like the layout department will take the reference from the first drawing you made. So don't go too crazy. Okay, we can call this good. And what I do normally when I work in storyboards is that I save the file again. Just change the number to 2. So that way you can open the first. The first one is like it's the same. So when you go to 2, you can erase everything and or modify it and not be destructive. So it's still sequence 1. It's still scene 1. Just write continue. There's 1. So at this point, it's going to be receiving the news, right? And then we're going to do something really cool to use the camera to add dramatism to the whole thing. So okay, at this point is where you get like the whole like animators are nuts because you got to start acting your scene yourself. Like, what do you do when you get bad news? Like, you listen intently. You bring your hands to your head. You you make like very like what happens to your face. So that investigations lends to like put yourself in the mirror and start making faces basically, and people think you're mentally challenged or something, but it's part of the work. Here, this gem should be lower, like here. Here. Let's try something like this. Okay, so we have something that looks like this. So he gets the news, he starts processing. Let's save this. Let's hit save. Now let's do, okay. Then let's do a violent denial. So this is page 3. Okay. So continue. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Hey, we're doing storyboards for Bad News starring Pete Simetis, King Cryptid. So yeah, at least at this point, like when you're doing storyboards, like you can afford to be loose because it's just a matter of like showing the shot and be a little bit more organized with our lines here. Okay. Maybe we can do something with the cape here, just so as he loses his temper here, maybe we could come in with a, let's see. So this is basically we're doing a zoom in now, also known as a in animation it's known as a truck in, because the old cameras were on rails, so they would say like yeah truck it in, but yeah everybody knows it as a zoom in. Like unless you want to be like an animation purist, then you say truck in. But so yeah, this is what we got so far. Let's tighten up this pose a bit because it's a little bit crazy. So is get your ideas as quickly as you can. Get them out as quickly as you can. You can always come later and clean it up. But at this stage, details will only hinder you. So just try to get your ideas as fast as you can. Like normally, I wouldn't show this to a client. I will have like a more finished drawing, but this is basically how I work. I try to get the ideas out with the simplest or like as fast as I can. So drawings are not meant to be pretty at this stage. Just a matter of rough it out, try a different perspective, try different poses, like everything you need, right? Yeah, normally when I work storyboards, like I would do like, I don't know, like 8 pages a day, maybe more, depending on how complicated the sequences are. Discuss them with the client or with the crew, get their input, and then start cleaning up after we have like a clear idea of where we're going. Because if you deliver a clean drawing on an idea that's going to be changed, then it was basically a waste of time. So yeah, just know where you are within the production. Basically, it's even if you see like the Disney storyboards or like storyboards for DreamWorks and the big companies, they're quite sketchy and simple. It's just a matter of communicating ideas and shots. So at this point, we're gonna cut. So we come from, let me save this. So let's bring out what we got so far. So we got from scene one, we got King Cryptid giving its back to the camera. Somebody calls him, so he turns. We're not gonna hear that. Then he listens, processes, and screams. We get a close up. So you see, that's a. I might make a animatic of this. So basically, you can see that process too. That would be cool. And then we got this. So scene 3, we go sequence 1. This is still in scene 1, so this is scene 2. How are we going to transition from scene 1 to scene 2? Just a simple cut. At this point, we need more of a spatial awareness of where he is, and that's where our reference comes in. So I want a rock that looks like this in a forested area. I like the slanted kind of orientation of the terrain, so I'm going to use that. So what I'm going to do is a simple grid, trying to like eyeball the perspective. Something like this, maybe. And I'm really eyeballing it. I'm not really like looking for vanishing points and whatnot, because so this will be our ground of the action. We can add another slope back here. The rock. Yeah, I like this like little edge here, so I'm gonna make sure I keep it in. The rock is gonna be resting in this kind of ellipse here. So if we go to scene one, the trees are quite close from him. So we might have a tree over here and another one here, maybe. And that would be the maybe another one behind the rock here. So this slope is gonna be like a high ground. Then we have trees. We won't see the roots of these trees. See the roots on these trees, but on the trees like going down the little slope that we're doing here, right? Like it's doing kind of like this, the slope. Just gonna see the trees, but we're not gonna see the roots. Okay. We can erase a bit here. And this works. Now let's use a purple to do King Cryptid here. And I'm gonna do it in another layer because we're gonna be recycling this background on the next pages as we describe the action. So cutting from this, it's gonna be a cut in action. So we're gonna have King Cryptid here. Let's try to copy the pose. You know what? Let's make this lighter so we can use this as an under drawing. And wow. Yeah, good. King encrypted here, just snarling and ever give him the bad news. It's like, rawr. So pretty close to what we did here, just in a different kind of shot. The straight cut, scene 2, right? So now, let's save this. Storyboard, scene 4. Let's check that everything is fine on scene 3. Okay, this is like the way I work and how I've developed this. Always check before you erase anything because then you might not get it back. All right, so okay, so we got this. We're good. We can work back to 4. So here we're gonna get rid of this. So we're still continuing from so continue is good, but this here, we're gonna need this background up here. There we go. So we're continuing here. Okay. This is bad news. Page 4. Good. This can clip it here. We don't need. So in a fit of rage, yeah, we're on the proper. I know this is very scribbly and maybe only I understand it, but yeah, I'm gonna clean it up later, guys. So don't worry. So at this point, it's really important to know what's going to be animated in the scene. And there's a thing: King Cryptid is going to be animated, and he's going to destroy the rock behind him. So that's going to be animated too. So that those are notes that you will give the animator crew and the people at the layout department to tell them, like, okay, when you draw this background, draw the rock separately and finish the drawings behind the rock, because it's not going to be there at some point within the scene. So those are the things that, I mean, once you do your storyboard, the layout department and the animation department would know how to proceed to create the scene properly. Because if you don't let them know, then they will do the rock embedded on the scene, and then it's a nightmare, because then you have to redraw what's behind the rock and then draw the rock separately. You know, it's better to go to war with all the information. And the storyboard, at the storyboard phase, it's not really that necessary, but within the storyboard, you should be able to see the things you need. So here I'm copying the layout, and let's drop it. And here we're gonna maybe finish the background a bit. Oops. Okay. So here, scroll back to encrypted. Okay, so we got this pose here. Whoops. And I might do a post studies, like now that I know where I want the animation to go. So these poses are not final. It's more of a general idea of what I want to happen. So again, don't be precious with your drawings or like looking for a final poses. We're not thinking about that now. We're thinking about positioning, camera placement, composition. It's it's a work in progress. So be ready or be prepared to change things around, and yeah, don't get married to your designs. Just so yeah, this is gonna be fun. So. Okay, let's tighten this up a bit. So now let's make another layer. Let's make the copy the general shape of the rock. So if he hits the rock, let's say he hits the rock around this area. Whoopsie. Say he hits the rock around this area. So I don't like this color. And He break. Hey, hey, what's up, Roy? How you doing, man? Yeah, as long as you guys are watching, like I don't mind. Uh, yeah. So okay, so he breaks the rock, and then we fade to black. That would be the sequence of bad news. So let's recap. Just okay. So let me open page 3 because I closed that one down. So we finished the model sheet in color. So this is the general look. I went for a very like I don't know like it's a mix between Jenny Tartakovsky and Hellboy kind of like finish to the character design that lends itself to be properly animated. I tested the limits of the character. We did that all roughly, at least to this stage on Tuesday. So I finished clean them both up. Then we went to do storyboards, which is basically what we are going to animate. So we're doing a sequence of 2 scenes. The first one would be a close up. I didn't put close up. Let me put close up here. So we're fading in. This is a symbol for fading. We see King Cryptid giving its back to the camera. He turns as something catches his attention. Then he listens, processes the message, screams at the camera. We move in with a close up or a truck in, as they call it in animation, and then we cut. It's a straight cut, which is marked by the word cut. As he's screaming at the camera, we see his spatial reality. For reference for this background, I found this picture on Pexels. So I might make it look closer to this on the final layout, because I really like this tree here, and this root on the foreground or tree trunk, like fallen tree trunk, really adds to the depth. So I might add that to the final layout. And let me see. So we're here, and then he winds up and breaks the rock in anger. And that's our storyboard. So on Tuesday, we're gonna start making would be blocking the animation to start doing the roughs. And I might work on the background during the weekend on my own. Just I mean, I don't know if you want to see that. It's basically drawing, but it's gonna be very interesting. Next Tuesday, we're gonna start animating the sequence now that we have everything in place. So I guess that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been another episode of the Animation Dojo, and I guess I'll see you Tuesday, man. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. So have a great evening, and see you later, guys. Bye-bye.